Hello there. I've been doing some research, reading old newspapers and magazines and checking some online reviews to see what people thought of sitcoms over the years. It's been fascinating to see people's opinions. In this series of videos, I'm counting down the 15 sitcoms that seem to have the worst reviews from both critics and viewers, based on various lists of the worst shows. In this video, we will look at numbers 12 to 10.
Number 12.
Jennifer Saunders could have had a long-running, groundbreaking television sitcom when she conceived her Vivian Vile character just a year or so after Jeremy Kyle started his television show mediating family disputes. But the public and press were eventually going to bury both of their series. Saunders wrote the BBC Two show, The Life and Times of Vivian Vile, with clinical psychologist Dr. Tanya Byron, who she met having enjoyed her television show The House of Tiny Tearaways, and asking her to appear in the French and Saunders Christmas special in 2005. The Life and Times of Vivian Vile was a show within a show, as we see Vivian Vile backstage and in her daytime talk show, as well as at home. In a similar vein to confessional-style shows such as The Jerry Springer Show and Trisha, Vile's show has episodes dedicated to raunchy and sensationalistic themes, such as My Son Calls the Wrong Man Daddy. They are uncannily similar to Kyle's show, whose mannerisms and style are both parodied by Saunders' portrayal of Vile. When Vile is hospitalised after being accidentally injured by a security guard dealing with an on-set punch-up, her manic producer reveals that ratings have doubled as a result of all the drama. The ever-vulgar Vile criticises her husband for comparing her to Oprah, saying, "I haven't got that type of ego," while passing a wall-sized portrait of herself. She then sees ever more disturbed guests on her show and recruits a psychotherapist, Dr. Jonathan Fowler, continuing the Kyle imitation. Saunders could never have envisaged the outcome of the increasingly sensational real-life Kyle show that ran on ITV for 3,430 episodes from 2005. Even in 2007, just as Vile was being broadcast, Judge Alan Berg described the Jeremy Kyle show as human bear-baiting, but frankly that's why a lot of people watch the show. That would be the least of Kyle's problems. An inquest in 2024 heard that a guest on Kyle's show in 2019 was booed and heckled by the studio audience when Kyle revealed a lie detector test result confirmed the guest had been unfaithful to his wife. The guest later took his own life. That ended the Kyle show and his mainstream television career. The press were not delighted with the fictional daytime talk show host either. The Telegraph said the problem was how to parody that which is already beyond parody. Gerard O'Donovan, writing about the first episode, said the familiarity of the ground meant there were few belly laughs. The Mirror journalists could not contain their vitriol for Vile. Kevin O'Sullivan said there's not a decent laugh in it. It was cliched. After the third episode had been aired, Ben Dowell in The Guardian revealed that the audience had dropped from 1.3 million to just 900,000. Other reporters agreed that the world of this type of daytime television had gone beyond mockery. Some viewers enjoyed elements of the show, but generally agreed that overall it was not a success. In 2007, Canadian broadcaster Alliance Atlantis Communications aired The Life and Times of Vivian Vile on their drama channel Showcase, billing the show as a black comedy from BBC Two and BBC America starring Jennifer Saunders. The show was released on Region 1 DVD in 2009.
Number 11.
Land of Hope and Gloria was a short-lived 1992 ITV sitcom starring Sheila Ferguson, which was critically panned and is considered one of the worst British sitcoms ever made. Hang on, Sheila Ferguson, the Sheila Ferguson, member of the 3 Degrees from 1960s and 1980s? Yes, that Sheila Ferguson. Sheila Ferguson was go-getting American Gloria Hepburn, who brought her skills in leisure management to the crumbling ancestral pile of Beaumont House, while the owner, a bumbling aristocrat, looked on helplessly. It wasn't her first time acting. She appeared, uncredited, in the film The French Connection, and then in the US sitcom Sanford & Sons in one episode in 1973 as part of the 3 Degrees. Next she appears as Susan Robinson in 2 1991 episodes of Brookside. She made one more appearance after Land of Hope and Gloria in an episode of Desmond's as Rochelle Jackson in 1992. Plans for a second series were scrapped after co-star Joan Sanderson died a month before the first series premiered. The Telegraph put Land of Hope and Gloria at number 4 in their list of the 10 worst British sitcoms ever made. Their reporter commented, "The personality clash is a staple of the sitcom, but rarely have the effects been as grating as this one. The fact that in 1992 a sitcom garnered laughs from the premise that an English stately home could be managed by, gasp, a black woman beggars belief." Adam's Nostalgic Memories said, "It does feel like Land of Hope and Gloria is one of those shows where they thought of the title containing the pun first, and then they thought of the actual idea afterwards. A viewer felt the concept was weak and the scripts even more so. Then the real death knell was the casting of Ferguson in the key role. She was visibly way out of her depth in trying to carry the series. Perhaps the saddest feature of all was the frail appearance of comedy legend Joan Sanderson in what turned out to be her last role. She at least deserved a much better swan song." There were only 6 episodes in one series that were shown in a double bill with the second and final series of Hope It Rains, another Thames flop, with both series ending on the 29th of July 1992. Land of Hope and Gloria was produced by Thames Television and was shown about 6 months before they lost the London area ITV franchise. There does not appear to have been an official DVD release, but episodes can be found on YouTube.
Number 10.
The BBC made quite a fuss about The Royal Bodyguard, with the first episode aired on Boxing Day 2011, followed by the second episode just after New Year on the 2nd of January 2012. It was written by Mark Bussell and Justin Sobresny, who wrote the highly rated The Worst Week of My Life. It was a vehicle for David Jason, or perhaps, as some commentators suggest, he was shoehorned into the parts so the BBC had a star name in the show. Jason is Guy Hubble, the well-meaning but incompetent bodyguard appointed to Her Majesty the Queen after saving her from a runaway horse-drawn carriage, a scenario he caused by his own carelessness. He continues to cause chaos in his new role, yet somehow comes up smelling of roses every time. Critics were united in declaring that David Jason was miscast. At 71 years old, he was generally felt too old to be a bodyguard, head of security maybe. Reviewers made frequent comparisons to Peter Sellers' Clouseau and Rowan Atkinson's Johnny English. TV critic Jim Shelley wrote, "It was blatantly designed to cash in on the appeal of characters like Inspector Clouseau and Johnny English, but the idea that Jason could play a clown as well as Peter Sellers or Rowan Atkinson was the only funny thing about it." In The Guardian, Lucy Mangan said that writing the part for, or giving it to, Jason was to play to all of his weaknesses and none of his strengths. No one could claim, even before he turned 71, that he was an athletic actor. The series earned the dubious distinction of being named by the Metro as one of the 10 sitcoms even worse than The Right Way. Carolyn Westbrook said, "Comic low point. Our intrepid hero attempts to eat a lobster with a knife and fork. Chaos ensues." Digital Spy named it as one of the worst sitcoms of all time, saying, "Sir David Jason is undoubtedly a TV icon and a comedy great, but he had a stinker on his hands with this poorly received sitcom about a bumbling Clouseau-style elderly bodyguard." Thousands criticised the BBC One show on Twitter, with many people saying Jason had been let down badly by the script. Viewers said the sitcom was a bad joke, especially compared with Del Boy Trotter in the classic Only Fools and Horses. The Radio Times reacted on Twitter, "Oh dear, we are not getting many complimentary tweets about The Royal Bodyguard. Can't remember the last time we had a Twitter reaction like this." Dan Owen of Dan's Media Digest said, "It's safe, comfortable, predictable, silly entertainment that all the family can sit down and watch together." But so much of The Royal Bodyguard felt so outdated and daft. Dan felt that the show needs someone like Lee Evans for this kind of grand physicality. Jason's reached the age where it's not funny to see him in a vest and sock suspenders trying to woo a woman in her 20s. It's instead slightly uncomfortable. TV Tropes commented, the production team apparently thought that having a famous name in the lead guaranteed a hit, so they didn't bother to put any effort into the scripts and ended up with an excruciatingly unfunny parade of slapstick cliches. Having Jason as the lead actually backfired, since fans of his earlier work felt that he deserved a far better show. The viewing figures clearly supported the critics' and viewers' opinions. The first episode aired just after an explosive episode of EastEnders, meaning it benefited from the soap's viewers staying tuned to the channel. 8 million people were watching The Royal Bodyguard at its peak, but at the end of the first 30-minute episode, 1.5 million viewers had turned off. About 4.5 million viewers tuned in for the second episode, dropping to less than 3 million viewers for episode 3. Only 2 million saw the sixth and final episode. By any measure, these figures were a disaster. The series was cancelled, and by the end of 2012 the show had been released on DVD. I hope you enjoyed this reminder of some of the shows that were the mongrels of the sitcom pack. Sitcoms are a funny thing. What one person loves, another person might hate. It's all about personal taste, I suppose. If you've any other sitcoms you think should be added to this list, or you have any fond memories of these shows, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Perhaps they will be in the next video. Thanks for watching.